Hi, Wayne Dorband here for the bi-weekly NTP CEED webinar huddle that we hold here at our Northern Colorado headquarters in Loveland, Colorado, both live here at our site and also going out over the web to those of you that are watching. Enjoy what we have for you today. Today's topic is going to be the HELP initiative. So, Healthy Ecolonomic Living Program. We had to use the word initiative in there because if we say the HELP program, you're kind of duplicating the word program, so it'd be the Healthy Ecolonomic Living Program. So we're calling it an initiative, and as an initiative, it means it's one of the things that we're doing within the CEED, Center for Economic Excellence and Development, group of companies. And this HELP initiative is something we're excited about, that we're putting a lot of time and effort into getting developed. Let me just tell you a little bit about its genesis. And the genesis is really through the Balanced Life Team efforts. So Balanced Life Team, as we've talked about before, is one of the companies resident within CEED. And Balanced Life Team has very simple goals, and that is to be a membership site where anybody in the world can become a member and can learn about what we're calling the 4 pillars of a balanced life. And those 4 pillars are financial, physical, emotional, and mental. So what our goal is to help people create a balance between all of those. So our goal with Balanced Life Team is to help people to achieve balanced lives in the areas of financial, mental, emotional, and physical. And what we've decided is that the 2 of those that seem to be the most important to people that we talk to and talk about are really the physical and the financial. So we're going to emphasize with the HELP initiative those 2 pillars, the financial and the physical. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing with all of those today. And I'm going to just offer some things to you. So one of the things that I'm sure you've been hearing about is this heartbleed attack that has occurred to the internet, and in that people are being compromised. We all are being compromised with a number of our sites in which we have internet presence, and specifically those in which we have passwords. And I don't know about you, but a frustration that I have relates to the fact that I don't have any idea about how many passwords I have. I know it's a lot, and to this point in time, I have kept them in 2 different places. I've kept them on a site on my iPad that I actually find is somewhat convenient for me to get to. I'm not sure how secure it is, honestly. I would assume it could get hacked into. And then I've also got a spreadsheet that I've created on Google Drive. And I also worry about that being able to be compromised. Obviously, the simplest way to do it would be to come up with a spreadsheet or a document on which I put all those sites, all the passwords, all the login information, and it would be a hard copy. And so it wouldn't be online. And then what would happen? I mean, think about for you, anybody out there, anybody in the room here. So I'll just point out Hayden. Hayden, if you had all your passwords, your login information on just a piece of paper, what would be a challenge with that? What would be the potential issue of that? Yeah, and that could happen. So there's a compromise that could occur there. That's not the one I would personally worry about the most. Yeah, losing it. I mean, or maybe not fully losing it, but having it with me when I needed it. Okay, so if I was going to go on the road, if I really needed to get into something in a variety of places, I'd have to make sure that I had that with me. And I just know myself well enough to know I would mess up. I would not have it with me. all those times. I wouldn't be quite as worried about someone stealing it, although that's a possibility. And if that happened, I really wouldn't know what to do other than change everything again. So I wish I could say that what I'm going to show you here is my idea. It's not, but I'm going to show you a website that that I've actually gotten access to that is one that I am really excited about because it is free, for one, and it's called LastPass. So I'm going to pull it up on my screen and show it to you. Hayden's response was not very well heard by the audience, which is, he said the two things that could happen. One is that he first said you could lose the piece of paper and someone else could steal it, and then the second is that I said, and he agreed with me, that you could just misplace it, or you could have it somewhere where you weren't, so that you wanted to get in, but the sheet wasn't with you. You kind of knew where it was, but you didn't know where to find it. So I'm going to actually pull up this website, LastPass. So this is LastPass, so lastpass.com. And again, a little bit of the story here is I was made aware of this site by one of those sites in which I have a password that they say was potentially compromised. It's a very large site. It's actually called Infusionsoft. It's another tool that I'd like you to become aware of over time as something you can use to help you in your balanced life. And they said that one of the things that I should do is to change all my passwords. And they said one way to accomplish that was to use this site, LastPass. Well, what LastPass does is it works in the background, and it actually puts an icon on your toolbar that would allow you to click on it if you wanted to actually open up a site that you had that had a password. It would actually fill the password in for you and all your login information. It will also, it's totally encrypted. I'm sure any of this could be broken into, but they must have some incredible long track record of being able to make the claims that they do. And then you can also, it will randomly generate new passwords for you. So it'll take and generate some ridiculously long number letter combination, caps and symbols and whatever, and you can change your passwords on sites you already have, or you can add to you can add a new site and it'll give it to it. Then the reason it's called LastPass is that whenever you go to log into a site, it understands what it is. It actually fills your password in for you, and you never have to remember any password other than the password to LastPass. So I'm not there yet. I'm just making all these changes, but ultimately I believe that I'll get to the point where it will be my entire source. So again, it's free and something that I would highly recommend that you look at. So the reason I bring that up is it's relevant, and one of the things that we want to be doing with Balanced Life Team is to be bringing up these relevant sorts of things for our audience, for our tribe, as it were. So right now, we think that what's really relevant is financial and physical for people. So I had a chance this last weekend to be a speaker at a national event down in Phoenix. The week prior to that, I spoke to a smaller audience for folks at this that were attending this same larger event the following week. And I was touched by a number of different things. So just telling you about this was a recording of one of those two talks that I gave over the last week, and just pointing it out because I'm not going to repeat it now, but I recommend that you go and listen to it if anything that we talk about here is of some value, because it's relevant for this HELP initiative. So I'm going to basically give a little bit of it. 4 years ago, I was at a leadership conference of which there were about 10,000 people at this leadership conference, and there were all kinds of amazing speakers. Tony Blair, who used to be the head of the British government, was there. Jack Welch, who used to be the CEO of GE, all kinds of amazing speakers for 2 days. Right before lunch on the second day, there was a speaker who was a government official in Ghana, and he came up to the podium to speak, and he was literally the last speaker before lunch. And first, he was not a real good speaker. All right, you couldn't understand him real well. He was fairly boring in whatever his topic was. By the time he was 10 minutes into his presentation, I bet 1,000 of those 10,000 people had started to leave the room to go to lunch. By the time he was close to getting done with his presentation, I bet there were a third of the people that had left. When there was probably 5 minutes left on the schedule, I finally decided I've had enough, I'm leaving. So I'm a back of the bus kind of guy, so I was sitting in the back of the room, and I was a little bit, I don't like to leave people's talks, but not too awkward. I got up to walk out, and you're going to hear something rather loud because I'm going to try to imitate what happened. He literally did this. He whacked on the podium that he was talking. I'm going to try to imitate his accent a little bit, but he said, "You people, you've been coming to my country for 400 years. I actually skipped something there. I'm going to repeat it. He said, "You white people." And that's exactly what he said. And the room was pretty much white. So he was talking to the room. "You've been coming to my country for 400 years and giving us food, and we're still starving. You say all the time, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Stop giving us fish. Teach us to fish." And honestly, he could have put a dagger in my heart because of a number of different things, but primarily I just resonated with me. I saw he was right, because if you do some research on it and you look at hunger relief efforts throughout the world, almost all of them, way over 90% of them, are involved with food being taken from wealthy first world countries, the United States being primary, taken to those places where people are starving, and hopefully getting to the people. The worst thing is that a lot of that food never gets to the people. The reality is there's over a 50% loss of anything that ever goes out to a place where people are starving because of graft and corruption and all other things that go on. But leave that aside. The point is, what happens typically is that food comes in, people are there when it gets there. You got to have an audience. It's either some mission team from a church or it's a government agency or something, and there's children that are obviously starving that are coming up and sitting on people's lap. I mean, it's a wonderful experience. People are getting fed, and it's gorgeous. Those people leave after their 10-day mountaintop experience trip, and guess what? People are starving again. They're giving people fish. They're entitling people. So the guy could have stopped right there, and like I said, he put a dagger into my heart at least. The room, by the way, was just quiet. But he didn't stop there. He continued. He said, "Because our country has just as many natural resources as yours." You study Ghana, do a research on it, you'll find that's right. And then he ended with this: "And we're just as smart as you. We just don't know what to do. Teach us to fish." Well, I don't know about you. I'll tell a story on me. I think that more often than not, when I think of places in the world where people are starving, I think they're stupid. Why are they starving? I don't think of them as being as smart as me. I don't know whether you're willing to admit that to yourself, but I don't like to admit that. I don't like to say it. That's the way I used to think. I don't think that way at all now. And that guy's talk had a lot to do with it. But my thoughts were, well, yeah, they're starving because they don't have a clue. They don't know how to do anything. They don't know how to. Well, that's true, but it's not because they're stupid. It's not because they aren't just as smart or smarter than any of us. It's because nobody's taught them what to do. Instead, for 400 years in Ghana, and 400 years goes back to the time in which, colonization was occurring. It's probably a little longer than that now, but where these places in the world were isolated from the rest of the world prior to that time, and then the Spanish and the British and the Chinese and the Japanese and others started to colonize. And it was when that happened that this giving of food started to occur, this entitlement. And again, it's gone on for so long. There's 4 generations in a century, so that would be, 16 generations of people or more, and people have forgotten how to feed themselves. So that happened 4 years ago, and I made a decision at that time that I was not going to be a part of just letting that happen. Instead, we were going to make an effort to do something to stop that. So we formed an entity called Nourish the Planet at that time as an arm of the Institute of Economics, and you're seeing the website. Leanne, why don't you actually go back and forth, just scan around that site a little bit so people can see what it is that they could find if they go to the website. There's a notification of our webinar there that you're seeing, and every day there's new blog articles. So maybe on that one, Thin Flexible Electronics of the Future, just click on that real quick on the Read More. These articles are all written by people who give lots of thought into these. These are all original. These aren't copied from other sites. These are written by people who have done research on particular topics. I'm going to call him out. One of them is on here on the webinar, Mark, who is a writer of these, and there's lots of great information. Just are you muted? Your computer? Can you play that video just a little bit, just to see what that looks like? Just hit play on that. You're not going to be hearing it, but here's just a little example. So here's an article, and there's a description of graphene, which is a new kind of material that could become the next silicon. Well, the relevance of that is silicon is made from a number of different elements that are becoming more and more rare. And there is at least the projection that we will have a problem finding enough silicon into the future. And if you're watching this on a computer or on your phone or a tablet, without silicon, you can't make what in the room? Anybody? What is it? What's silicon a major element of? A couple things, but really important for our computers and such. Anybody? Chips. Silicon is a major element. Well, silicon is also the major element in glass, and it isn't silicon that's becoming rare. It's actually a number of other things that are involved in that process. So here's a little video that we called up that we think would be of value to you. So encourage you to go into the site, watch, look at the articles, read them, and so on. So the whole goal was to come up with a process that we could educate people, and at that time, 4 years ago, Nourish the Planet set out a very ambitious goal, and that goal was to enable 1 million ecopreneurs by 2016 to teach the world to feed itself. Now, that didn't mean to enable 1 million people feeding, but really it was to enable teachers, people who would be learning and then taking whatever they learned out to others. That was the goal we set, and we're about halfway into that goal, and we're not close to 500,000 people that we've reached, but we're over 100,000, and we believe it's an exponential growth curve. And so it's out of that talk from 4 years ago, and out of that goal of enabling 1 million ecopreneurs to teach the world to feed itself, that the HELP initiative has been born. And very specifically, what we're going to do with the HELP initiative is to provide 2 kinds of things for folks. That we're coming up with a slogan, by the way. The slogan of the HELP initiative is going to be we want to help people, with help being capped, the acronym, to become healthy, wealthy, and happy. And I struggle a little bit when we decided on that word wealthy in the middle, because wealthy doesn't mean, and we're not intending it to mean having, you know, a McMansion and having millions and billions of dollars, but instead it means to have an appropriate financial situation to where you're not struggling to get by, to where you're in an appropriate living situation. And I think long term it probably means financial stability, and it means potentially financial freedom, where financial freedom would mean the ability to know that you could get disabled, you could be unable to work, and you wouldn't suffer horribly from a financial situation. And I'm looking around the room here, and nod your heads, but tell me just by nodding, if you became disabled today and couldn't earn a living, would you be financially stable? You know, I don't see a head in the room nodding yes. Most 99.99% of people fall into that. Now, that doesn't mean that you're, again, live in a 15,000 square foot home and drive the very best brand new car on the road and do everything in, you know, in a party, so, you know, to just spend money ridiculously. That's not what we mean by wealth. But what we mean by wealth is to be appropriately financially stable and have the ability to know that if you got into a crisis situation that you'd have that stability. Along with that also, I think it's valid to look at the potential for a legacy, which would mean if you, again, became disabled in any way, that you'd have the ability to pass on to others that you chose a legacy. And that legacy could be financial, or it could be your life and those that you touched. And quite honestly, that's probably more important. And that would be wealth. So wealth doesn't have to be measured by dollars. So again, the goal, the slogan for the HELP initiative is going to be to help people become healthy, wealthy, and happy. Happiness. Let's talk about that one for just a minute. There's been a lot of recent studies, medical studies, well-researched studies that have shown that what we may have been defining happiness as for many, many years is maybe not what it really is. So let me just throw it out there, both to the chat, to those of you online, and then second to my live audience. Give me a couple definitions in your words of happiness. And I'll repeat them if it comes here live, and online if you type something in.
Contentment.
Okay, Leanne says contentment. What else? Anybody else? Fulfillment from another person in the room here, from Josh.
Purpose.
Leanne says purpose. See if we're going to get any. Actually, I know we won't see it right away. They're delayed online by about 30 to 45 seconds, so it'll take a second before they actually will type it in, and we'll all be seeing it on the chat side. What else? What other thoughts? What does happiness mean?
Joy, no matter the circumstances.
Okay. And again, someone else in the room, and I'm sorry, but I wasn't introduced. We'll talk afterwards. What was your name?
Tiffany.
Tiffany said, joy, repeat it again.
No matter the circumstances.
Joy no matter what the circumstances. Define joy a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I just think joy as opposed to happiness I think is circumstantial. Maybe it's more depending on your circumstances, whereas joy is something that you just have kind of no matter what. So yeah.
Okay, sort of inside you. So happiness, again, she sort of went in a little bit circular way around to the happiness, again, defining joy under no matter what your circumstances. But I think we understand it. So Anything else? Again, let's see if we get something else coming up on the chat here. Mark said chips. That was probably something else. I'm not sure that that's what he wrote in. Could be. Maybe happiness is eating chips. Oh, that was his comment to the, yeah, it was to the previous one, so it's still out there. Well, think about that. Do come up with your own definition of happiness, and we'll be chatting about that more. So obviously those three things are what we're setting up as a goal, but what are we going to do? So how are we going to help people get there? Again, with HELP being all in caps, the acronym HELP. Well, we're going to start with doing some very specific things that I want to describe, and then beyond that, we're open to all kinds of suggestions, and we really will. John says physical and mental well-being, which is a definition of happiness, so that's another really good one. The two things we're going to start with right off the bat is to deal with, again, physical and financial, and we're going to start with two very specific opportunities, two different ways to do that. And they both have to do with this conference that I just recently attended in Phoenix. I had the pleasure of being with 7,000 people there that represent the leadership of a variety of different organizations around the world that are very interested in both physical and financial well-being or happiness. And one of the ways that they're doing it is with a specific technology called the Tower Garden. And when you come here to visit us, you'll be able to see a tower garden. Matter of fact, I'm going to have you do something different. Pull up, just do a Google search for tower garden, and you'll actually find the website for that. Pull that up. Tower garden is a vertical hydroponic, really more specifically a vertical aeroponic system that was developed as long as 20 years ago, actually at Epcot in Disneyland, or Disney World, excuse me, and it's been refined after that time to where it has been functioning essentially the way it does today for probably at least 10 years. So here is a picture of a tower garden, and it's actually scrolling so you can see a couple things. Once you move, there you go. This one happens to be a 3-foot version. You can actually span the height of that tower garden up to as many as 12 feet or potentially even taller if you have the right amount of a pump power to get water up to the top of it. And what happens is there's water down in that green reservoir at the bottom, and that water is infused with nutrients, and those nutrients are a real important part of this. That water is pumped up through the middle of the tube that's in the middle. It then, and this is what's special about it, there's a proprietary process here. Instead of just flowing down, it actually gets spread out like it was mist. So it's encountering the roots of the plants as it goes back down, and it also, the plants are arranged so that the same amount of water that's hitting the roots at the top is hitting the roots at the bottom. So you don't have a differential growth situation that would occur. That's a real challenge with vertical growth circumstances. This one's special. Not saying it's the best in the world or there's nothing else that's close to it, but this one clearly has overcome a lot of the challenges of a vertical growth situation. The one we have here in the office, in our warehouse, and we're not in an outdoor or a greenhouse situation. We get a little bit of light from the west, but it's such that we put lights around it. This one you're seeing here doesn't have any lights. It's just being a demonstration. There's pictures below it of a number of them that are outside that you could see. You can grow any kind of plant in it that doesn't have a stalk that's more than about an inch around. Okay, that's the limitation. If you grew plants that were real tall, you'd have to add trellises, something to support them, or you could have plants that would grow down and become vine-ish, like any kind of melons or squashes or other things could be, so that they could grow down onto the ground also. Tons of research been done with this system, very well established. We now have a unique relationship with the manufacturer of this, to create a combination of a culture, a growing community, so a community of people who will be using tower gardens, as well as an education process. They're going to be looking to us to educate people all over North America on how to use tower gardens in their homes and in even commercial settings that even could be their garage or a greenhouse that they might make, so they could be feeding their neighborhoods. So our whole plan here is to use the tower garden as a part of a whole bunch of other things that we're doing also, which we've talked about in other webinars and that you will see on the websites that we have. But very specifically, we're going to emphasize the tower garden. And this is the first time I've talked specifically about this, but here's what a very short-term goal is going to be. Within 3 months, the goal will be to have 200 of these tower garden systems in 5,000 square feet of our current 15,000 square foot warehouse space. They'll be at least 6 feet tall. Some of them could be 9 or even 12 feet tall. This one you're seeing on the screen is 6, so excuse me, is 3. So if you picture the lady that you're seeing right now and going up 3 feet above her, that would be 6 feet. And we will actually have the ability to build systems that are as much as 12 feet. Probably won't have too many that are that high. Those systems will be all operated by the staff here at CEED. And we have a full-time, 7-day-a-week staff that is a combination of scientists and gardeners and farmers. That staff and our interns and our volunteers will be farming those 200 units, and we will be harvesting approximately, I'm trying to do the math in my head here, 400 of any individual plant and what it's producing. And the plants, by the way, will be every different variety of edible greens, fruiting plants, not rooted plants. This is not a kind of a system that's well suited for carrots or potatoes or onions, garlic, the rooted sorts of things. Anything that could be fruited or that could be greens where you're eating the leaves. This is a basil plant you're seeing there. There's kale on this, and there's that you're seeing in the pictures. Why don't you scroll a little more? I think there's other places you can look at on the site, and just scroll around a little bit more, Leanne, as we're talking. So there's an example of one out on a deck, and that's got, I believe, oranges on it, so you can actually grow miniature perennial plants, smaller plants that would stay. But again, these 200 systems will be planted so that on a weekly basis we'll be harvesting enough food to provide to a community-supported agriculture group that we'll be establishing that will be year-round, and that CSA will be buying food that will be provided weekly from these 200 systems that we will be farming. The 200 systems will be owned by individuals and or businesses, not by CEED or Nourish the Planet. So each one of those, if you picture it, and for the room here, I'm holding up my bottle of drink here. If this is a single tower garden, Josh, you could own this tower garden, and Hayden, you could own the one that's sitting right here, and Tiffany, you could own the one that's over here. All of your, and you'll have some input into the management of the farm, but you won't be farming it. You aren't responsible for doing anything with your unit. You can come in and volunteer and be involved in the process. You're not required to, but the harvests that will occur, the planting that will occur, will all be done by CEED and our staff. The marketing will be done by CEED and the staff, and you will be paying a maintenance fee that will determine the amount of, I'm going to give you some numbers here in just a second, that will support that operation. On a monthly basis, you'll get profits distributed to you based on how much your tower garden as a part of 200 produced and how much profit that you could have made from it. So in other words, your garden is not standing alone. Here's the key. It could be that Hayden's tower, the one I'm showing here now, I'm going to switch over to back to me, use this. So this one here, it might not have done really well. And poor Hayden, if all he did was have his one garden tower, he didn't have a very good month. But it isn't going to matter because Hayden's going to share in the profits of all 200 and of the cumulative profitability. Now I'm not going to go into all the details about all the benefits of this kind of a system. Each one of these operates, here's one of them. Each one of these is operating independently, and if Hayden's happen to be in bad shape because a whole bunch of diseases hit it, it's very likely that we'll catch that and it will not have hit the other 199. If these were in one system, such as we have a number of others around our location, it's likely that the problems that Hayden has are also going to affect everything else throughout the farm. In this case, because of the isolation of the system that this is, we'll probably catch the problem that is in Hayden's, and it won't affect everyone else. Now, Hayden's meaning that he owns this one specifically. Hayden can choose at any given point in time to take his system out, take it to his home, and use it there. There'll be a contractual obligation to give notice to do that and such. But the whole goal is that Hayden probably would have a second one in his home that he's growing for his own personal purposes, and then he has one or more that are in the cooperative, in the HELP cooperative, the HELP food cooperative. And we think people are actually going to probably have more than one, because let me tell you the economics real quick. And these numbers aren't set in stone, so don't just totally quote me, and you can take notes on this, but you'll be able to go back and watch the replay of this also. The purchase of a tower is going to be approximately $600 for the 6-foot tower. That's what the majority of them will be. A 12-footer might be $150 more, so let's say $600 to $750, but let's just stay on $600 for a minute. You'll be able to purchase that on installment. Notice I didn't say finance. You won't be credit checked, there won't be any interest, but you'll be able to purchase that and pay it off over 12 months. So using 600 as the number I gave, it would mean that you divide that by 12, and that's $50 a month, right, that you would pay for your unit. Based on now 7 years of farming that we've done using indoor aquaculture systems that are very similar to the tower gardens, we know that one plant in your system, and a 6-foot system will have 50 plants, should generate $2 a month in revenue. And $2 a month times 50 would be $100. So for the first year, you'd be paying $60 to be paying for your system, and you'd have $40 in gross profit. Nod your heads in the room if this is making sense. Everybody, is that making sense? That won't be your in-your-pocket profit, because there's got to be something to pay for all the services that are occurring, for the fact that you're not doing anything with your unit. You've put it there and you're gaining revenue from it. There'll be a fee that will be assessed for all the owners of the 200 towers. And we haven't come up specifically with what that fee will be, but it'll probably be in the range of $10 to $20 a month, in that range. So let's, for right now, say that it's 20, which would then mean your $60 cost, your $50 cost, plus $20 for your fees, means that you have netted $30 for having that garden in the cooperative for a month. After the first year, you don't have the cost of your system anymore. Now your gross profit is going to be $100. You don't have any other cost. Your fee of $20 is there. You're now making $80 a month. So there's a term that's used in business called ROI, return on investment. And you do the math for me. What does that mean if you paid $600 for this? What's the period of time that is return on investment for you? Yeah, you're making $30 a month for year one, so that's $360 in year one off of your $600 investment. But now you're making $80 starting with the next month of year two. So you go from $360 to $440. The next payment you're at $520. So 3 months into year two, 15 months, you've completely returned your investment. There aren't very many investments out there today that have that kind of a yield. That's an incredible yield from a financial perspective. It gets much better if you start putting some more volume to it. You own 5 or 10, because at that point you won't pay as high of fees. The number will incrementally go down, but you'll be able to be more profitable. So that is an initiative that we'll be starting, and it's all being developed right now. There'll be orders being made in the very near future for a number of additional tower gardens, and then they will become available for people to participate in our cooperative. We will be giving you more details about that as time goes on. Let me just stop there, and I think John asked a question online, and let me see if there's other questions in the room, and we're going to actually stop here in just a little bit. We're just about finished. John asked, maybe describe to people what is needed to make a tower garden grow. If it's in your house, or it's electrical, you need to plug it in because there's a small pump. I mean, effectively an aquarium pump. So the power usage of it is minuscule, tiny, pennies a day, as they say. If you do have lights, you're probably going to use 4 fluorescent lights for a 3-foot unit. You double that if you're having a 6-foot unit. My guess, we haven't done the loading equation on this, but less than $1 a day, way less. I bet that's 15 cents a day of power consumption from the lights. They're on rollers. You can move them around. A lot of people grow them indoors in the winter, and they roll them outdoors for the summer, and they'll grow outdoors during the summertime. There's a lot of other advantages of it. I'm not going to go into that. They use 90% less water than a traditional soil-based garden would use. Their growth rates of almost all the different kinds of plants will be sometimes twice as fast as they would be in a traditional garden kind of situation. Lots of huge benefits that come out of it. So again, plant that seed for you. The seed, S-E-E-D, coming from CEED, C-E-E-D, is that this program, this initiative, through HELP, will be coming and becoming available here in the very near future. One last seed that I'll plant, S-E-E-D, is that on the other end of the spectrum, another initiative, another portion of the HELP initiative is going to be a income generating opportunity that is related to, again, plants, but will not involve even an investment like $500. It'll be much less than that. And I'll talk more specifics about that at another time. But that's something we're also going to be making immediately available to our friends, our family, our fans, as it relates to CEED, C-E-E-D, and Nourish the Planet. So I think it's we're about 10 till. I don't have any other specifics to talk about today. I was going to open it up for a little bit longer today for some questions. And then maybe even scroll around just a little bit more before we end. Any other questions from the room or online? So again, there'll be about a 45-second delay for the online questions. And anybody in the room have any questions about the cooperative situation? Did I explain it well enough that it makes sense to you? Some of it's going to still be evolving. For example, there is a potential that if you were to be an owner of one of the towers and you volunteered your time to work, you could reduce your fee, much as lots of other cooperatives do. So by your work effort, you would be reducing your fee. Could be even enough of your work effort, and you could work off the cost of your tower garden. You could eliminate even the cost of your system. Again, haven't completely put together what that would look like, but if we value people's times at more than minimum wage, I'm not going to put a number to it right now, but I'll put a number to it. Let's say we would value the people's time that we're working in the farm to be $10 an hour, and that's not high. I realize that, and it probably should be valued higher. But let's just use that for a number right now. It would mean that we could have it to where you work for 60 hours, and that would pay off a tower garden, right? That would pay for your garden. So that potential exists. Since I threw out the $10 an hour thought, something that I do want to end on is, how many of you have heard of the name Bill Mollison? Okay. Bill Mollison is considered by most to be the father of and the inventor, really, of the term permaculture. He's Australian, in his late 70s now, still very active, still a spokesperson even for the whole topic of permaculture. He came up with that term in the 1970s, and lots of other people have embraced it. We'll have webinars over time where we talk very specifically about permaculture. I believe that this concept of the cooperative is a form of permaculture, because let's look bigger picture. If we can do a cooperative here in Loveland, producing our own food in a 5,000 square foot area, and I haven't done the math on this, but I think the calories that would be produced in that, in terms of the numbers of people it would feed, would be substantial. We'll do that math, and we'll be able to tell everybody about it. And by the way, that's a term I haven't used in a while, but you often hear about how you should live a net zero carbon life, right? Wouldn't that be a really great thing to do? Well, what if you were able to say, I lead a net zero calorie life? Meaning, I produce enough calories to offset all the calories that I eat myself. That's entirely possible, by the way. Literally, even on a deck that you have on an apartment, if you think about the process, put it in place. But now back to Bill Mollison. I've been listening to some podcasts recently and reading some things about Bill, and he makes a statement that I think is very appropriate to this whole initiative, which is, one, and Tracy put this word in my head in the webinar we did 2 weeks ago. Do you remember her word that she used that was just really cool? And as I asked the question about how would you define sustainability. Do you remember what she said? Anybody?
Degeneration.
Yeah, I think you said her South African accent made it sound a little different, but because it sounded to me like she said degeneration, but she said regeneration, so regenerative. I've taken that term on, and I'm trying to use it now instead of using the term sustainable, because regenerative means not just stable, but getting better, regenerating, getting better over time. So if we're going to live a regenerative life, it means we're making things better. We're making people better. We're making the planet better over time. We're making profit better. So Bill Mollison always talks about regeneration and regenerative being important. He also had a quote that I want to end on, and I'm not seeing any other questions out there, so I think we'll end with this, that I just really love and want to leave with you just as the last thing we say today. And that's, if you think about this cooperative and you think about other things that you might be able to do within our plan that we're going to lay out more for you as it relates to the HELP initiative. And Bill says it this way. He says, you will be practicing a permaculture lifestyle if you do two things. One, you live regeneratively. You're making things better. Two, it's a passion. You just love it so much that it's a passion. Those are the two things. But then he doesn't stop there. It's a little bit like the fellow from Ghana. He could end there and it'd be great, but he doesn't because he goes further. And he says you can almost always know that what you're doing is the right thing if resources rally around you. Meaning, if you think about it, if you're doing something that you're passionate about, it's regenerative, but you just seem to be doing it in a vacuum. There just doesn't seem to be anybody else, any other people. People are resources. There just never seems to be enough money for it. Money's resources. You just can't find enough stuff for it. There doesn't seem to be any research you can do to find the information you need. If you just keep doing that and you keep just wondering, why doesn't there ever seem to be enough resources? You're probably not doing the right thing. So, that said, ending on this, I believe because of a whole bunch of things that have been happening in my life and in our lives here at CEED over the last very short period of time, maybe the last month, that as it relates to HELP, this new initiative, there are a number of resources rallying around. It is a passion. It's truly regenerative, and it sure seems like resources are rallying. So I'll end there. Goodbye from Loveland, Colorado, and we'll talk to you, remember, 3 weeks this time because we have one of those weird months where it's a little bit longer, so our first Wednesday of the month will be 3 weeks from now. And we haven't got our speaker scheduled yet. We will get that done. I promise you this, you won't have to listen to me for a time. We will have another outstanding, exciting speaker, and we'll end it here. And see you in 3 weeks, if not before.